What's going to be colder on Sunday? The temperature on the field or Shedeur's jewelry?
I'm gonna have to say it again, Noah. You are so corny. I'm a little disappointed because I thought I was Unk on this show. I thought I was supposed to make the corny dad jokes, and Noah just coming in hot week after week.
Well, when you have a little fandom going on, you're feeling good about your rookie QB. You got to joke about it a little bit. You got to hook the people with some Shedeur Sanders humor. Just real
It
quick,
gets the people
Eric,
going.
it does
Sorry,
get the
had
people
to.
going. Just real quick, I want to remind everyone, drop a subscribe, leave a comment down below, leave a like, and check us out on all socials at Sign the Office CLE.
Yeah, so we have Bears versus Browns this week in Chicago, and it's gonna be a chilly one. I'm a real feel kind of guy, right? And the real feel is supposed to be minus 20. Minus 20. That's cold. What do you think?
What do I think? I think this is going to be an ugly football game, just based off of how these types of football games typically go. I don't think that anybody's going to perform relatively bad. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not predicting that someone's going to have a bad stat line. I just think it's going to be gross, ugly, ground and pound football because that's what works best in these cold weather games is running it down their mouth. Whether you could do it like the Browns cannot, or you can't do it like the Browns cannot. It really just comes down to the ground game and what's going to happen here, in my opinion, as frustrating as it is after what we saw out of Shedeur Sanders. I think they're still going to let him try to sling the rock a little bit, but when it is negative 20, you got guys dropping balls just because they are not used to the pain of catching a negative 20-degree football. I just think it's going to be an ugly football game, and I'm all the way here for it.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but I think the over under is like 38 and a half. I would take the under. Last time the Bears played in a home game that was expected to be this cold was in 2013 when the wind chill was -9. It was a night game against the Cowboys. Points were scored though in that game when the Bears won 45-28. And I just want to throw it back. Do you remember Jay Cutler?
Yes, I
Um,
do.
he was hurt at the time, but he bought all of the quarterbacks' wetsuits in order to stay warm. And Mike Ditka also got his number retired at halftime, so maybe that played into the Bears winning. But I'm not expecting a shootout in this one, like in that game back in 2013.
Yeah, and there was a lot of exciting news to come out of Cleveland Browns universe this week. Of course, one rookie Shedeur Sanders, officially rookie of the week. We joked about it on our film breakdown that is now officially official. What is your reaction to this? Are you surprised? I don't think either of us are surprised.
No, well deserved. He was absolutely rookie of the week. If you saw the cover image on our video, we played around with that as him being the GOAT, and then a little asterisk, greatest rookie of the week. He certainly was, though. He looked the part. He threw for 300 plus yards. Was responsible for 4 touchdowns. I mean, what more could you possibly want? And being a rookie quarterback is the hardest position to be a rookie at in the NFL, and he looked really good.
He did look really good. And, just to tie it back into, the Bears game now, do you think he's going to look good in this game? I know the weather is a factor. The weather is something that we're worried about, but I mean, the weather wasn't great for that Titans game either. And you're talking about a Bears defense that isn't ranked very well, but force 2+ turnovers a game typically. Like they're averaging 2 turnovers forced a game right now. But when you talk about like the overarching metrics, they're like 25th for points allowed. They're 27th in yards allowed. It doesn't say here exactly what they are for yards per point, but it's not good. They are bottom half of the league. Do you think that there's still going to be a fighting chance for Shedeur to show out? I don't think it's a 300-yard game, but maybe like a nice little 210, 250.
Yes and no. Yes, in that I think he's capable. No, in that I'm not sure Coach Kevin Stefanski is going to give him the opportunity. I know we've been ragging on Stefanski for weeks now, months if you were me. Uh, the fact
Years.
is, though, he has been a terrible coach. He's been trying to do everything he can to lose, it seems. Maybe he has a secondary mission that we're not aware of from higher up. But I expect a very steady dose of ground and pound football this week and kind of keeping the ball out of Shador's hands a little bit. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong on that. I hope I'm wrong on that. But is he capable? Yes, but I don't know. I feel like he's gonna be hamstrung this game for some reason.
I think the contrary to what you think, Eric. I think that they're going to let him try to sling it a little bit, see what happens with the weather. Of course, the run game is going to be heavily involved. It's heavily involved week in and week out, despite the team's ability to run the ball. I mean, we are horrible in terms of yards per carry, but Judkins
Yeah.
is just that good where he fights for yards and still gets some big pop plays. Um, but then again, you also think, what about like the dump off game? You know, Shedeur passing the ball to Judkins in space behind the line of scrimmage technically counts as yardage for Shedeur, even though it's just supplementing the run game a little bit, I guess. I don't know. I do think that Shedeur is still going to have the ability to throw the ball a little bit. I don't know how much downfield throwing we'll truly see. I guess it depends on how bad the wind is in current moments and stuff like that. But with the wind chill, like you're saying, man, I don't know.
Well, do you think that they're gonna be a little more conservative? You talked about turnovers in Chicago's defense. Chicago has 27 interceptions on the season, and they have NFL best turnover margin of plus 17. So I, I don't know. Knowing that Sanders has thrown a couple picks now, which again, it's not a knock against him. That's going to happen. But his pick last week kind of led the Titans into taking that lead in the third quarter. It did lead to that. So as he's continuing to develop, listen, trust the process, right? But I'm not sure, especially like you said with this weather, if they're going to let him just sling it. Now, I will say that for Sanders' part, he is just focused on this game. He talked about his future. He's been asked questions, I should say, about his future, about coaching, and all he is focused on is beating the Chicago Bears. Everything he says, man, is pitch perfect. You
It,
think he
it,
had
it
media training?
Oh, well, you know, when you're Deion Sanders' son, you kind of just know what to say to the media because you've been doing it for such a young age.
He said something that I just wanted to point out. I think this was last week, but it shows his maturity and how he's thinking about the game. He said, quote, "Sometimes you get in situations where you just have to understand the play is over, and I'm improving in that. I had a little slip up last week for sure, just knowing that the play is over. I want to win so bad. I want to make something happen whenever we're stagnant and stuff like that." So just learning from the week before, he was talking about against San Francisco. When I took a sack that got us out of field goal position, I learned from that and I was like, okay, know where we are in the field, understanding that. I'll try my first thing, and if it doesn't work, get the ball out so then I won't negatively affect the team. That's the kind of growth. Like, again, I'm not sure what more you could ask for him. He shows maturity. He's showing maturity in his progressions and his stepping up in the pocket. Like, he's doing the things that we said, okay, we're really worried that he drifts in the pocket a lot. He's working to fix those things. He's not perfect. No, he's a rookie. But I got to say, the more I watch, and we've talked about this, the more I'm in favor of drafting really good wide receiver talent and really good O line talent and forsaking that of quarterback unless you're looking like late rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on that train all week. I had a mock draft I put out on X that I basically highlighted going wide receiver, tackle, tackle, wide receiver. Well, guard tackle because it's like Caden Proctor, who's a mammoth of a man, but might be better as a guard in the NFL. Um, that being said, I agree with you in that. And it makes you think. You hear a lot of these reports about how locked in Shador is with walking around with this tablet, consistently being in the coach's office, this, that, and the third. I'm curious to see. I wonder how much of an effect that has had on him just trying to grow and develop his game. He's always been a hard worker. That was another thing I loved about him.
Yeah.
Coming into the draft and whatnot, is his work ethic is next to none, the top in my opinion. So it'll be curious to see how his development continues. We've talked a lot about Shedeur Sanders, and rightfully so. We're excited. The CU aunties, I was informed in our comment section, they're CU uncles as well. So the aunties and uncles
Hi.
are excited. They
We
are
see you.
excited. They are very excited for what's going on with this team. Um, there is another big storyline in play here, and that is one Myles Garrett and his chase for the NFL sack record. Do you think we see a sack from Myles Garrett in this game?
Yeah. I think we do. Listen, it's Miles Garrett is the superhero we didn't know we needed, and maybe he's not leaping tall buildings, but he's certainly jumping over NFL guards and long snappers to block field goals. I mean, that's the kind he is a freak of nature. Um, and maybe we should just anoint him and put a cape on him. But he is on this mission to not just break the sack record, but demolish it. And I think he's going to.
I hope you're right. I'm a little nervous that this might be a 0 in the sack column for him this week. I still think he breaks the record, but we're talking about a Chicago Bears O-line that is ranked, depending on the source, 3 to 5 in all of the NFL. Let me finish real quick. And
I'm
you're
listening.
also talking, well, you breathed and you scared me like you were going to
I
cut me
gotta
off.
breathe to live, but go on.
Fair enough, fair enough. We're also talking about a game where we've already said we think it's going to be run heavy dependent. You don't get a sack, you don't get to total a sack on a run play. So that scares me a little bit too. The positive side of this, though, is Caleb Williams and Shedeur Sanders are actually the two quarterbacks in the league right now that hold on to the ball the longest. That doesn't bode well against Myles Garrett. So if they are in a passing situation and they do pass the ball, I could still see Myles getting home, but it does make me nervous with the weather conditions, with the strength of the Chicago Bears offense being their offensive line. What is going to happen there?
Do you remember Myles Garrett's very first game in an NFL uniform?
Uh, Vaguely, wasn't it from the 0-16 season? I push all of that together and try to put it in the back of my mind.
On his first NFL snap, first snap playing in an NFL game, he recorded a sack. That's the Myles Garrett we're talking about. He set a franchise season single sack record, which was 16, I believe, and then the following year he matched it. So he broke the season record in sacks and then matched it the very next year. The fact that what happened this year, I play what if in my head because he had a bit of a slow start this year, and I think if he coulda got off to that hot start, because he went from 5 sacks, in October to 15 in the span of 3 games. That's insane. I mean, think about that. That is just insanity.
Oh, it's
Um,
otherworldly.
it is otherworldly. He is by far the best edge rusher in the game, period. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. Seeing teams triple team him, and I don't mean chip, I don't mean using a tight end. I mean 3 linemen containing him, and he's still getting free because he has such I mean, if you watch him closely, the snap of his movement, how he can break, right to left and go around a lineman or multiple linemen so quickly is insane. So yeah, I think that his eyes are on 25 and more than 25 perhaps. He only has 1 sack in the last 2 games, obviously, but I think that says more about the standard than like we're saying he only had 1 sack apiece in each
Right.
game. That's the Myles Garrett we're talking about. By the way, no other player this season has more than 13.
Oh, I know.
So
He's again otherworldly, and I sit here and I say I'm nervous he won't get one in this game, but I also would not be surprised whatsoever if he goes out there and sacks Caleb Williams 5 times and they drop back 15 times and 5 of those times he gets sacked just because that's who Myles Garrett is specifically this season as well.
and I wanna give him a lot of credit in that he re-signed for a boatload of money, still not Deshaun Watson money, but a boatload of money, guaranteed money, and we said from the onset, that you can't complain about a bad Brown season when you chose the money. Like, you knew what you were coming back into. You said you wanted to leave, to win, and yet you took the bigger contract. But I wanna give credit where it's due because, we've won 3 games. We're a pretty terrible team, all things considered, and yet his motor keeps running, and somehow he has stayed motivated. I think we've seen frustration, certainly, but yet he's still getting the job done, still leading that defense and being a leader. That was one of the things that they challenged him to do, and we've seen it from Myles Garrett this season. I mean, hats off to him. This is a hell of a year, and if he doesn't have defensive player of the year locked up, well, he does. Period. Like
I was gonna say there's no
he
reason to
does.
say, well, if he doesn't, because he
Exactly.
does. That's just where he is. Let's turn our attention to the injury report, the game as a whole. There's a bunch of names. It is the end of the NFL season,
Yeah.
and the injury report reflects that. You have Tevin Jenkins on the injury report, a guy who started for Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller was already announced to not play. Cedric Tillman is basically out for the 13th time this season. Denzel Ward with a calf. I don't think that's going to really mean anything. Zach Zinter, who hasn't dressed at all this season, is randomly popped up on Thursday with an injury. Grant Tilpitt is on an injury. I mean, I could go on and on. Jack Conklin also probably not playing this weekend. Mason Graham on the. Okay, I will. I'll hold my tongue now. The injury report. What do you think that is going to play a factor in this game? Obviously, the Browns list is about as long as my box on this screen.
Yeah, I mean, the O-line's something we've talked about all season long, and being banged up there doesn't help. Play calling and Sanders' playmaking ability has eased that pain a little bit.
Yes, it has.
Um, and I will say that the O-line has played admirably well in these last couple of games. Like, they can't really be blamed for any losses or what we're seeing, right? So overall, no, there's nothing on here that worries me in particular. I think it's interesting how Sanders has talked about Ethan Posick and how he has been like he hopes he's here next year and he's really comfortable with him. I find that interesting, but as we talk about like needing to revamp this line next year, yes, it's something I look at, but seeing this, I'm not super worried right now. What about you?
Yeah, Ethan Posick and Luke Whippler. Shout out the Buckeyes real quick. Former Buckeye Luke Whippler is. Ethan Posick being out does suck because he is known, from what I know, in that offensive line room as the leader and
Mm,
a leader on this team, being able to know the offense and what they want to have done on a play at a deeper level to help a rookie like Shedeur or Dylan when Dylan was playing, or a new guy that they had to bring in off the street in years past. You know what I mean? Not that we've ever done that with Luke Whippler, or not Luke Whippler, but Ethan Posick in. But, we used to bring in quarterbacks off the street all the time. It does suck. It is, despite the PFF grades and all of that, it sucks that he's not out there. That being said, this is a big time game for Luke Whippler because he is
yeah.
auditioning to potentially be the center next year. And he had a pretty solid game against the Titans. He let up zero pressures during basically 2.5 quarters. So, yeah, 2.5 quarters of football. I think he played, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But he let up zero pressures. He played solid. He's just a young guy that needs to continue to develop. And I'm curious to see how he does in that key center role this weekend.
I think you hit the nail on the head though. I think it's more about leadership. Uh, the quote from Shador was this: "It definitely hurt that Posick was out because the responsibility he took in helping everybody when I was able to come in gave me a different level of comfort. So I truthfully hope I could play with him next year, and I hope he's around next year. I really do, but I'm going to make sure I'm around next year too." That's a interesting quote in my opinion. I mean, he clearly built that up with Ethan, and I think it is a leadership thing. I think we need that strong leadership in the locker room. I agree with you. It's quite an opportunity for the young Ohio State man to do his thing, and we likely will be seeing him next year. But I just found that interesting.
I do find it interesting too. The two names that I thought have the best chance to basically be on this offensive line next year and kind of be the plugs and the holes for the time being are Wyatt Teller. Don't know what that looks like now with the weird injury and pulling him situation with Tevin Jenkins,
Yeah,
and Ethan Posick, because he's thought of so highly from what I know, again, a majority of the locker room, a majority of the coaching staff, just for being one of those dudes. Maybe he's not the best player on the team, but he cares. He's all the way in and he's a leader. You know what I mean?
I do. I want to get into the lines, but the thing that worries me the most in this game, I say worries lightly because I think if I'm being honest, I never root for the Browns to lose ever, and I don't want us to lose. But if I'm being honest with myself and with you watching, the fact is I want Shador to ball out and I kind of want the Browns to lose. Because it's better for the Browns. That
Can
said,
can
uh
I jump in real quick? Just real quick
briefly.
based off of what you said. I disagree with you because the more that, if you're on the Shador camp, the more that the Browns win, the further they get placed away from a position to be able to draft a quarterback with teams having still a better slew of draft capital than us. So to me, the Browns
But I
winning,
said I want him
moving.
to ball.
Oh, I want him to ball too. I get that, but I'm afraid of the situation where Shedeur looks great for the rest of the year, and they have the second, third, fourth overall pick, and they still take a quarterback because of that. And then
I
we
don't think
have
they do
more holes that
well.
we're trying to make work with two quarterbacks, and we're doing the same thing we did this year.
All right, we're getting down a draft preview show. Let's move away from that. What I was gonna say though, that what the Browns have to contend with is a very strong run game for the Bears. I mean, they run the ball as well as anyone in the league, and our defense just let the Titans run all over us. So, Bears being at home, coming off from that tough loss, of course, and they're having a great season, but they are still fighting for playoff position. I I don't know. I don't like it on paper, but it doesn't matter, and the weather's gonna have its say. That said, Browns are plus 7.5. Vegas learned from last week when they were favored. Over under 38.5. I'm telling you, take the under here. If it is over, then I guess I'll eat my hat. Anytime touchdowns. Judkins, is he gonna get back on the board? Fannin and Judy rounding it out. And then you see the Bears there. I don't need to call everyone out, honestly. Browns first drive result, touchdown plus 550, punt minus 145. That's our favorite line, of course. And
Of
that is
course.
coming from FanDuel as of today, or yesterday, technically, by the time you're watching this. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, I think the Browns have a chance as they do every week with this defense and a new feeling on offense, at least a little bit of energy to go out there and win this game. The Bears, though, are fighting for their playoffs and fighting for their seeding and all of that. So it's going to be a tough game for me to say that the Browns will win this. I thought last week they had a really good shot at beating the Titans and Shador showing out. I got one half of that at least. Um, I feel like there's a decent chance. That's the best way I can put it. I think the Browns, with the rejuvenation of putting Shador out there, with the defense being as good as it is, despite the team's overall record, and still continuing to fight and show effort. I think that there's a good chance, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they lose this one because of how depleted the offensive side of the roster is.
Did you see, speaking of our good defense, though, did you see that Ben Johnson compared Carson Schweshinger to Luke Kuechly in his press conference? Yeah, the California Luke Kuechly.
And
Um,
it's funny because I made that joke after week 1, and now it started to stick. Not saying I started a trend, but maybe I started a trend.
that's fair. All right, let's get into our bets because we've been betting all season long. It's a three-legged parlay where we spend $10 each week. You and I going head to head, and it has not been good since like week 1 or 2 when we both won one. This week, I decided to go a little all out. Shador 2+ passing touchdowns, Judkins anytime touchdown because my man is due, and Fannin. He is one of my new favorite Browns players. He's up there if I get a New Jersey for a pick. Have him as an anytime as well. Plus 1,500 odds, $10 would win you $150, which I need because so far I only have $17.21.
It has been a rough year of NFL betting for the both of us, but I have a really good parlay here as well. I have Shador 2+ passing touchdowns, Judkins anytime. Does this look familiar to you, Eric?
Yeah, it does.
So I tailed you this week because I was sitting there and I was trying to build
This
something
isn't
that
cool. This is not cool at all, and this is why I tell you to send me your picks first. But no, you shouldn't be allowed to do this. This is a competition. You can't tail me.
I wanted to tell you. I thought it looked good. I have the same exact parlay plus 1,500 odds. $10 would you $150, and I'm still firmly in the lead. $36.25. Firmly in the lead is a rough statement when you have a $12 lead on sports betting for an entire NFL season. But no, I really liked your parlay. I tailed it this week. Definitely also tailed it to piss you off. And let's see if we win together, man.
New rule. After this week, you are not allowed to tail me in our competition here for the show. New rule. You also have to send me yours first for the rest of the season. You're right. This did piss me off. This is bullshit. Now I hope we don't hit, but no, I do. I don't know. Now I'm conflicted.
at work all day today. I would be sitting here, I'd be listening to my sports talk or whatever, making some graphics, doing my thing, and then it would pop in my head. I put the same graphic down for myself as Erik, and he's gonna be so mad. And I would audibly make myself chuckle. That probably happened 4, 5, 6 times today because I knew your reaction was going to be priceless when I tailed your parlay. And it's totally worth all your new rules and all your no BS because it don't matter. I'm in the lead anyway.
And I almost texted it's funny you say that because I almost texted you when you were asking about, normally it's like last second that I send you pics because I'm just so busy at work. And you
Yeah.
caught me at a perfect time today because I think I had just gotten out of a meeting or something. So I texted you real quick. And as I hit send, I was thinking I should have told him to send me his first because he never does. And then you pull this crap. Funny story though, I almost texted you right before the show and said, "Bro, don't hate me, but I want to change one of my picks." I was gonna swap one of them, probably Judkins for a Browns first drive touchdown because I was putting that graphic together and I'm like, I don't
I
know,
need to put
man.
it
I'm
this week.
remember when I said we should bet that and then they did it and I didn't bet it? I think
Yeah, and
against
I
the
did.
Patriots.
And I did. Yep, I do remember
Yeah.
that. It paid for all of my drinks at Tapsters, friends of the show. Erik, what else are you thinking with this game? I gave my overall, like, basically, I feel 50-50 on this game. How are you feeling with this game?
I think that if I'm being honest, I'll say that growth is not linear. And what I mean by that is I know I just bet Shedeur 2+ passing touchdowns, but I think he's going to have a little bit of a rough game. It doesn't mean anything against him. I just think that he's going to get sacked a bunch. I think he might even throw a pick or two. I don't know why I have that feeling. I hope I'm wrong. I think it's going to be a rough, low scoring game, but I think ultimately the run game from the Bears is going to win out, and they're going to take this one.
Yeah, if I had to pick a team, I would probably pick the Bears, but I don't like doing the prediction thing anymore. I feel like it's a little overplayed in the sports talk industry. But I do feel good about the ability to see progress from all of our rookies yet again. The Browns having a chance to go out there and win a game, and Shador having the ability to build on. I don't think it's going to be like 400 yards passing. I think he'll have a more modest game this week just because of the temperature and all the other stuff that's going on. But I do feel good about all the prospects going into this game for what's been a season that we knew was going to be a losing season. And I don't know. This time last year, I was completely checked out on the Browns. Like I was watching it because we talk about it, but I wasn't into it like I am now. Like I'm excited for Sundays. I'm excited to see what the rookies are doing still. Like there's a purpose to watch this season, and I am at least thankful for that.
That's a fair take because I guess I kind of feel a little bit the same. I think last year I was really checked out, and I'm certainly more into it right now. I want to ask you one final question as we wrap this up. And I don't know why this popped into my head, but assuming Kevin Stefanski is going to be let go at the end of the season, would you like to see Deion Sanders given serious consideration as head coach of this team?
No, I want him to stay in college. I think he's a good college coach. Um, that'll probably piss off the CU aunties and uncles and whatnot, but I think that's crossing a line just a little bit too much for me. I think the best thing that's happened for Shador's development at a pro level is getting into a system that isn't built around the Sanders brand and learning that way. But
Interesting.
what is your thought on that?
Well, I don't have strong opinions one way or the other. I'd probably lean towards no, like you, but for different reasons. I think the problem with Stefanski has been that he doesn't adapt to his personnel. He doesn't build around the quarterbacks that he has. So I think we should, if we think Shador is our guy, I think we should absolutely be doing that. And I'm not saying you do it just to try to favor him, but he is a guy that you should build your system around. You should try to hide his faults and amplify his strengths because that's what you do if he's our guy. So I disagree from the standpoint of why you say no, but I don't necessarily disagree that it is a no. I think Dion just isn't proven as a head coach, and he hasn't been a head coach at the NFL level. I think we need somebody to come in and be a mature guiding voice that can command a locker room. I have a list of guys in my head. One of them is no longer coaching. He was with Dallas. He was with Green Bay. I think I'd be favorable in taking a long look at him. I'm talking about McCarthy, of course. Uh, but yeah, I don't think Deion Sanders is anywhere near the top of my list.
Listen, after a strong rookie campaign and a much longer rookie campaign, the Browns leaned into what Baker Mayfield wanted, and we ended up with Freddie Kitchens,
Yeah.
a underexperienced at the NFL level of coach that jived well with his quarterback. I just maybe that's the PTSD and that's the mark for me where I'd rather go and get a tried and true, tested, understood football name that is coached at the NFL level, at least at a coordinator level.
Yeah, good old good old Kevin Kitchens, Freddie Kitchens. My dad calls Kevin Stefanski Kevin Kitchens. My favorite part of the now I'm going to keep saying Kevin Kitchens because that's just what's in my
Freddie
head.
Kitchens. Yeah.
Thank you. My favorite part of the Freddie Kitchens era,
What is that?
you got to know the answer to this.
The Denny's menu that's become a Kevin Stefanski thing?
I'm just gonna put it up on the screen. It even inspired people in the stadium. Yes, I was referring to the Denny's menu. My favorite's actually Peter Griffin dressed up as the Browns coach with the Denny's menu.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was a rough time of football.
You got one final question. I got one final question. We'll keep it super quick. Shedeur Sanders, is he going to throw an interception in this game? Yes or no?
I already alluded to it. Yes.
I lean towards it as well, just because it's a high turnover defense and he has that ability in his game and he's young. But it would be really impressive and it would be another good mark in the Shador column if he didn't. I'm going to just leave it at that for now. That's why I wanted to ask.
The what we've seen there's a and I'll keep this short, but one of the drawbacks that I've seen from Shador, he can throw a great deep ball, he can throw a ball with touch, and yet sometimes he also throws what in my household we call the wounded duck. Think of a duck that was clipped by a shotgun and he's still kicking, but he's kind of flying bad. That's a wounded duck. It's not a tight spiral. We saw it in the last windy game in Cleveland. If you don't throw a really tight spiral in games like this, the wind just takes it and creates your wounded duck. When we'd throw it as kids, my dad would go quack bang. That indicated that it was a terrible throw from me. But that's been a talking point you and I have touched on, and we've seen it. So I think knowing that and knowing the temperatures, I just see him throwing a pick here.
Fair enough, man.
A quack bang.
Everybody have quack bang indeed. Everybody have a safe, wonderful weekend. Enjoy what you can enjoy. I know the weather's gross across most of the country, so wherever you're watching this, enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Stay blessed.
Yeah, and first weekend without like good college football, which is a bummer. On that note, the debate never ends, but the show does for now. We'll see you next time.